Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-hosts of which are Rooney, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition, Uncut Uncensored, Too Hot for TV, etc., covering A Feast for Crows, chapters 26 and 27. Samwell and Jaime. In these chapters, our guys just beat on people that annoy them in these chapters. They each do. And I honestly was here for it very much both times. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, Rashawn, were you here for it?
I was a little surprised. Yeah, I was surprised by Sam, but, I wasn't mad about it.
I'm going to be honest. I actually completely forgot that Sam snaps and hits him. And when he hits him when I was reading it this time, I was like, oh, good for you. And then he keeps hitting him. And I was even more surprised because I really thought I would have remembered the full-on beatdown. But I did not. I did not remember this, and I'm proud of him. Good for you, Sam.
I agree. I wanted to punch Darion in the face myself, pretty early on in this chapter. And then, obviously, everything that comes out of Sam during this beating isn't just about Darion. It's everything coming out, right? So I understand that. But I still am not mad about it. Like, I feel like part of me, like, if I was a more enlightened individual, I would be like, well, Sam owed him maybe one or two smacks, but the rest was Sam putting his shit from other people onto this guy. And that's not okay. I understand that's what was happening, and I'm still very, 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 very okay with it. So I still have some work to do. Maybe some shadow work.
Yeah, it's I had in my memory because I knew that he got thrown out, but I think that I remembered it as he was thrown out because Darion was annoyed with him and basically it was like, hey, I paid the money, he didn't throw this guy out for me, And that is not how that shit goes at all. No. So
I also like at one point the fight is sort of described, if I remember correctly. Oh my God. Can you hear that?
Guys, we've had some pet issues this morning. For once, it's not just my puppies, which is kind of validating for me because it usually is just my puppies. But Rashawn has a cat that she named Ajita, which is part of her shadow work that she needs to really look at, is naming her cats these sorts of things. It just feels like you're asking for it. I don't know. But there's a fly. A very dangerous, bloodthirsty fly that Ajita is protecting Rashawn from. And Rashawn is so ungrateful.
I know, right? She's putting her very life on the line to protect me from this fucking fly. That I have to mention, you guys, is not even in the house. This is an outside fly, minding its business. That's circling around the edge of the screen door.
Ajita's like, he's menacing!
Ajita is like those people on those neighborhood apps, those snitch apps. They're
God.
Suspicious looking guy driving through the neighborhood. Be on the lookout. That's Ajita. There's a fly outside. I got my eye on it.
Don't worry. I'm closely monitoring the situation. I like the idea of her throwing herself in front of you like she's taking a bullet, but it's just a fly that harmlessly bounces. Yeah. Good job.
Steve told me the other day, did I tell you that he had to snatch her up because she was about to eat a wasp?
Wow. I kind of want to know what would have happened.
Oh, it would have been terrible. I've seen pictures of dogs when they like eat bees and then their little snouts get
Their
all puffy.
noses. Oh, it's so tragic.
But yeah, the crisis was narrowly averted and got to her in time. So if you guys hear any crashing, that's just a fucking cat. But so you were saying about I was saying actually this fight.
Yeah, you were.
It feels like after the initial pummeling, it sort of like devolves. You know those videos where you see like two guys and they're fighting, but they're both very bad at it. So like they're like throwing haymakers that aren't connecting, and then
I was thinking of when they just sort of start to like wrestle, but nobody's moving or really doing anything. But the haymaker thing is so true. They try and do these like big impressive punches, and it just like, you know, wings out into the air in this ineffectual way that's like, I know you really thought you were doing something right there, but something about the effort you put in versus what you got out of it is very embarrassing.
Somebody recently shared a video of these two dudes fighting, and they were both big dudes. You know, they were both tall and like had some weight on them.
Mm-hmm.
And to look at either one of them, you would be like, oh, I don't want to fuck with him. Right? They both looked pretty intimidating. But this fight was the saddest shit I have ever seen. It was pathetic.
I want to see it.
I'll see if I can find it. I think I remember who posted it. I'll send it to you. But like, it didn't have any music behind it. I am desperate for somebody to put like Curb Your Enthusiasm music or something behind this fight, because
classic.
It was so bad. And then in the comments, everybody, because it was like two black guys, they're in the comments, they're like, "Oh, that's some light skin shit right there. That's some."
Oh no!
Oh god! But yeah, I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. But I can't find the piece now, so now I'm wondering if I just like completely made this up. But I feel like there was a comment after Sam first swings where there is just sort of like this. Look at these two assholes. This looks like.
I don't think there's a comment, but people are definitely laughing. Like, and it seems more like they're surprised that because Sam didn't seem like the type.
Right, right.
Maybe I like to think Darian doesn't have a lot of friends here. Like, he is annoyed other people as well, and they're all just like nice.
Yeah, it really does feel like he has begun to wear his welcome. Oh my fucking god!
Speaking of wearing out your welcome,
you guys, she's leaping like I wish I could video it. She's leaping like 3 feet in the air to try to get this fly, because she's got like really like she can get some air when she jumps. She's right, and she's like at least halfway from the floor to the ceiling. She's making it at least halfway up.
It's wild how I took Sam to the dog daycare this morning, and they have, you know, fencing inside to separate different areas for different animals to play in. And this little dog, she's like half the size of Sam, and the fences is like 6 feet about. They're over my head. And this dog, one spring, and she's gripping the top of the fence. She's up all the way at the top. And she just holds on to it and looks at you for a second like, see, I can do it. And then just lets go and drops back down.
I can do it.
Yeah. And I was like, what is... And the guy who runs the place is like, yeah, that's my dog. I was like, oh, he's like, yeah, she could just get out of anything. He sounded so tired.
Oh my god.
Oh god. Anyway, I'm a big sucker for like animals that can spring upwards as if they have been attached to wires. It's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, she's fucking. She gets up so high from like just a standing position. You know, it's not like a run and jump. It is just a leap, a vertical leap. But so yeah, I agree with you. It really does feel like Darian has become tiresome to practically everyone who has encountered him. Yeah. And so yeah, everybody really does seem like they're in a they're happy that he's finally getting punched in the face. Where is it? Oh yeah,
Let's back it up.
Somewhere a man was laughing and a woman was cursing. The fight seemed to slow as if they were two black flies struggling in amber. That's what made me laugh. That part of the fight right there, when they're just like all out of steam, two flies struggling in amber.
I forgot about that. Oh, that's good shit.
But yeah, you're right. So let's go back to the beginning of this chapter, though. You guys, our Sam is not having a good time.
No,
this has been really rough. Turned into odd. This was supposed to be a temporary layover on their way to Old Town, and they are now stuck in Braavos. They are broke. Sam made some questionable decisions. Darian has not been helping.
Yeah.
They spent their money buying passage to Old Town, and then Aemon is so unwell that Sam refuses to let him travel. They've been asking the captain to wait, and he gave him a day or two or whatever, but at this point, he was like, I can't. I gotta go. And also, I'm keeping your money because it's not my fault you don't want to take the cabin you paid for. I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I have to give you your money back?
I hate that for them.
That sucks. And then they the room they're staying in, they need a room that's big enough for all of them, or they end up in like the biggest room they have, which is in more room than they actually need. And the innkeeper is charging them. It's like a room that would sleep 8 people, and even though it's only 4 of them, the innkeeper is charging as if there were 8 of them. And these are both business decisions that make sense as a business owner, I guess, right? They're not, but it's just smacks of, Jesus Christ, Sam, can you catch a break? Like, you're just being fucking fleeced every time you turn around. And then he spends money on like a healer to come out to see Aemon. And the dude is like, I can heal a lot of shit, but I can't heal 102. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I got all kinds of potions and oils and shit, but I can't do nothing about that. Because the reality is, Aemon is very, very old, and he cannot travel anymore. I love it. There's this wonderful line a little bit later in the Sam chapter where Aemon has like a moment of clarity, like a sort of brief but lucid moment. And he says something about how the wall and the cold is what was keeping him alive.
Yeah.
And leaving the wall and going south, it ended up being his like undoing. So yeah, between the innkeeper, the boat passage, the healer, they're broke. They're broke. They don't have no food. They don't have any wood, because it turns out wood is very expensive in Braavos, because you know what, they don't have a lot of trees, and the trees they do have, they don't chop them down for wood. And they can't even, remember we had that, it was a couple of chapters ago where we were like talking about burning dung and like how awful that was, but at least it's an option. And they don't even have that option because, again, Braavos is not really a city with everybody on horseback. Everybody's in these little canals and these boats. So they can't even burn literal shit to stay warm. This is bad. This is bad. And
I just like, this whole thing gives me so much anxiety, this whole scenario.
Yeah,
you know?
and then the person they're trusting to go out into the world to make a couple coins, to then bring it back, bring back food or heat or something. The only one they have is Darian, because he can sing. This is who you're depending on. And all he's doing is going out and getting drunk and horny every night. And not coming home for days. And then when he is home, he's mad because there's nothing to eat. Gilly won't stop crying. The baby won't stop screaming. The old man won't die quick enough. And then he just leaves again for a couple of days. Like this whole thing is, I agree. It is almost triggering. It just brings to mind, like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a sort of like really dire situation like this when you don't have money for food. Your living situation is tenuous at best. You're
Mm-hmm.
maybe there are no real children here unless you want to count the baby. These are all adults, but they're dependent on one person to be sort of the person who's going to bring resources to the family, and that person is wholly unreliable and very selfish. And it's a lot. And it was. I was glad when it was over.
Yeah, I had forgotten just how bad it gets, and the fact that Darian is like the one that they're really relying on, and I wanted to be like Sam, because he's, he may not have entertainment value, but he can read and write, and there's probably something that he could do to make them some money, because a lot of folks can't read and write.
Yep,
and
it doesn't
just
seem
putting
to occur
that
to him at
service
all.
out there. Yeah. And maybe
I-
it's because he feels like he needs to stay with Aemon that he can't leave him unsupervised, but I feel Gilly would be able to care for the baby and Aemon.
Listen, I had the same problem because we get a piece of this where Sam has sent Gilly out to get water from the canal, because even water is hard to come by, fresh water anyway. So they have to drink the canal water, and it has to be boiled first to make it like at least a little bit drinkable, and it's still not like the best option. But he sends Gilly out to get it, and she fucking gets lost. And so I guess, is it really just that he doesn't want to leave Aemon's side?
I think so. Right? Like that's where I'm at also. I understand that he cares about Aemon and everything, but like, you aren't doing your situation any favors yourself. So maybe you have to kind of get over it for a minute and go do what you need to do as well, since it's like Darian has made it so clear he is not to be relied on, that it feels like if you're going to continue to rely on him, what do you expect to change?
Exactly. I wonder how much of the small ways in which Sam views himself, right? That maybe it literally hasn't occurred to him that he has anything of value that could earn the money, like his being able to read and write. Like I can't tell which side of the fence I land on. Whether it's Sam, the side of the fence could be Sam often forgets that many people can't read and write because he just takes it for granted and doesn't think it's anything special. Or is it the other side of the fence, which is just that Sam doesn't think anything that he can do has value, so it never occurs to him to try to turn this skill he has into a way to make money. I don't really know which one. It's probably, I guess, a combination of both.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, like he can see the value of being able to go to a bar and sing a couple songs. He has no trouble being like, yes, that's a thing that you can do to go earn us money. Where he could just probably post up at the market and be like, who needs anybody to read a letter? Do you need who wants to send a letter to a loved one? I'll write you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course he doesn't have ravens. So I don't know about that.
You figure out the sending, but he'll
exactly
write it.
Right. He can exactly. I can write it for you, and then you can take it to the local Raven Master or whatever such thing. I'm not really sure how.
No, I feel like that works. Raven, I don't know what the fuck it's called, but that sounds as legit as anything. But yeah, so it's like we start off with him just waiting for Darian to what is his name? Yeah, Darian. I whenever I say Darian, I think it's wrong. I don't know why. It's just like the way it's spelled feels like it should be cooler of a sounding name.
Right. When you look at it, you think, oh, that's not a name that I would say in real life. But then you say it out loud, and you're like, Darian, that's nothing. That's nothing.
That's just a name. Yeah, right? What the hell?
Yeah.
And let's see. I'm trying to find that. He doesn't like it here with us, said Gilly, whispering. It's sad here. He likes it where the wine is and the smiles.
Who doesn't?
And obviously, like, of course. And I love Sam. And who could blame him? I could blame him. I have this exact sort of fucking conversation in my head all the time, Sam. I just love this one. I'm like, well, who's gonna? Yeah, I will. I'll be mad about it. Fuck this guy. Fuck everybody defending him. Meanwhile, your own brain is defending him.
And this entire time he's having this back and forth in his head, he's like staring out the window, trying to will Darian to appear, you know. He said he would be home. He said he'd be home before dark. Darkness is coming. It's creeping around the city. He should be walking up any second now. That motherfucker's still not here. God damn, fuck him.
Yep. So let's see. I'm trying to. Here it is. They were all the singer could talk about. He was trying to write a song about one of the courtesan, a woman called the Moon Shadow, who had heard him singing beside the moon pool and rewarded him with a kiss. You should have asked her for silver, Sam had said. It's coin we need, not kisses. But the singer only smiled. Some kisses are worth more than yellow gold, Slayer. That made him angry, too. It should. That's horseshit.
Yeah. Because also, like, you know, I forget sometimes. I have to be reminded that they are on a mission, right? This isn't just a
jag,
right?
Yeah.
This isn't just a casual trip, and it's not just about delivering Aemon to Old Town. You know, this is also, like you said, this a recruiting trip. And Sam is like, he is supposed to be out here singing songs about the Night Watch to drum up interest and hopefully get people willing to commit and join the Night Watch. And instead, he's out here singing about pretty women and getting drunk and, you know, fucking whores.
Red lips.
Red lips, yeah. No one ever took the black for red lips.
And even his like playing, it's just mentioned that he like sometimes wakes the baby up as well. And I was just like, oh, that's a real cardinal sin there. That's the part where no more understanding anymore, sir. They get the baby to sleep finally, and you're whining because the baby's crying, but then you wake the baby up.
This is the thing, right? Like you are always mad that the baby is crying all the time. You fucking are the one that wakes the baby up. The baby starts to cry, and you get mad, and you start yelling at the baby. You fucking woke him up. Yeah.
Yep.
You know what? And this is the kind of thing too, where, like, quite frankly, I would be glad that Darian. I mean, I know we need the money. I know we need food. We need heat. But quite frankly, I would be glad that he's not here. Just like, go, sir. Go.
There does come a point where it's like, it's just easier without you.
Yeah. The thing I thought was really interesting, we find out in this POV, is that Sam has not confirmed with Gilly about her son.
Yes.
He's
afraid to ask.
Yeah, he's afraid to hear the truth. He's afraid to hear really, you know, that it's true. He doesn't want it confirmed. And he is carrying around this guilt. And there's a moment when he's talking to Maester Aemon, and he says something like, I don't understand. Like, when did Jon's heart turn to stone or something? And Maester Aemon says, when you rose him up to be Lord Commander. And just like, ouch.
Yeah. You asked him to take this job, and it seems like you did not fully consider what that meant for the change that he was going to have to take on to get the job done. We often, guilty.
Yeah, I was going to say we often all do that, I think. Especially when it's somebody that we're close to, and you just feel like you and I were having a conversation about the ability to really know people. And this is one of those things where Sam just felt like he knew Jon so well. He thought he could anticipate what a Lord Commander Jon Snow would look like and be like and do. And, you know, thought he knew it so well that he was really comfortable with it and was like, all right, yeah, this is what we're going to do. It should be Jon. And it turns out that Sam wildly underestimated, you know, what Lord Commander Jon Snow was really going to be capable of. Yeah. And the kind of choices he was going to be forced to make, really hard choices, you know. And I think Sam just had kind of assumed that he knew Jon better and could anticipate the choices that Jon would make. And it turns out that he could not. And he's having a hard time dealing with that and carrying that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to me how, because like I understand like not wanting to confirm with Gilly, because the confirmation is also confirming that Jon has become somebody different. But I also just feel like what comfort it might be for her to have somebody to talk to about it. You know, I'm sure she was like sworn to secrecy, and part of what was so difficult was not being able to explain to everybody where your heartbreak was coming from.
Agreed.
And I just wish that for her sake, he would ask and start this conversation, because she deserves to have a voice finally that she's been denied repeatedly in her life, you know?
Yep. She's just been, her entire life has just been, you know, men telling her like what she's going to do next, you know? And to the point of even like having a say over what she does with her own child, you know? Like being commanded to abandon your child and take up someone else's, and then having to carry that alone because, like you said, you know, she's been, you know, sworn to secrecy and is upholding that pledge really when she doesn't even have to, right? Like she's miles and miles and miles away from John and the wall and all that, and yet she's still holding the secret. And Sam is thinking all of this, and then instead of acting or doing something differently or asking her, he just settles back on, oh, well, I'm such a coward. I'm a coward even in this. But that's a choice that you're making right now. You don't have to still be a craven, as you call yourself, because you're afraid of getting the answer. Like, that's a choice. So I don't know how much. Like, I'm a little salty around this part of the story with Sam. And y'all know I'm always like Team Sam and always like go Sam and all that. But this is a little, I'm disappointed in Sam. I'm going to just, I said it. There it is. I said it. I am disappointed in Sam when it comes to this bit with Gilly. I really am.
Yeah, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm so craven, I don't want to get hit with swords or face otherworldly beings of ice. But then to just be like, I am not going to bring up this subject because it's difficult and it's going to tell me something I don't like about my friend. That's a whole other thing that is like really selfish in a way that the other things don't feel.
And he's also got to be feeling a lot of guilt because we know that he was such a strong believer in sort of the moral goodness of Jon Snow, and he had promised Gilly how safe she would be, right? And then Sam brings her to this place where he's promised her she'll have safety for her and her son, and has, you know, talked Jon Snow up, I'm sure, you know, to no end because of how much he loves and admires and is like low key kind of in a like infatuation. But like not anything creepy, guys. I just mean, you know, that kind of thing where men can be really into other men that possess certain traits that they don't have, you know?
Yeah.
And so he basically delivers Gilly to this place, and the people and the person he had talked up so much ends up being the one doing this horrible thing to her. So Sam is probably deeply, deeply guilty. About his even though he didn't make this decision happen, but he's so involved in all the steps to how we get here, how Jon becomes Lord Commander, how Gilly ends up at the wall in the first place. And he doesn't want to, he feels, I think, responsible for how this is played out, I think. And I think that's part of the reason why he doesn't want to face her. It's not just hearing the truth about Jon, but what if Gilly turns around and says to Sam to his face, this is your fault. You brought me here. You know, like that would crush him. That's what he's afraid of.
That's true. Yeah. That's a very good point. This whole situation sucks.
Yeah, it's such a bummer. We did have, you guys, you know, I squealed, right? When he runs into Arya. You know I did, right?
Yes. Yeah, so all right, before we get there, let's talk about Aemon and the conversation that they have, because Aemon's wits are beginning to really like crumble away.
Yeah, he says whole, wander, like, and I love that. He says that his thoughts are wandering more and more. I just like that. I like the way that's written. But yeah, all right. I'm sorry though, but you were saying.
So yeah, he says, Egg, it's dark. Why is it so dark? And Sam has to be like, I'm Sam. And he kind of comes back to himself and it's just like, oh, right. And then he wants to know why it's so cold in here. We get some more info about how much of their money has been wasted. And he wants to go to the ships and wants to find out as much as he can about the dragon gossip.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Sam, I was young. I dreamt of Old Town. I was young again. And my brother Egg was with me with that big knight he served, who is Duncan the Tall.
Right.
We were drinking in the old inn where they make the fearsomely strong cider. Do you remember us laughing at something like repeating over and over about how the cider was fearsomely strong?
Uh-huh.
I don't even remember exactly where that was, but apparently that is just like the fucking thing that they say about it. It's like, the Olive Garden where you don't just say, oh, you get an unlimited pasta bowl. No, you get the never ending pasta bowl. You get unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks, but you don't switch those words. The words are what they are with what they are. You know what I'm talking about. So he's trying to get Aemon to eat. They have barely any food and the bread they have is like super stale. So he's like, maybe I can find something to mash it up in. And he wants some wine and Sam's like, yeah, we don't have that either. We've got like dream wine. And he's like, no, I've dreamt enough. And again, we have to go to the docks. When you're stronger. And he just says, well, then you go and ask about the dragons then. I need to know this. And he tries to convince Aemon, this is just sailor stories. You know how they are. They just make shit up for the fun. Who's going to check them? But Aemon is like, the thing is, a lot of times those stories, like even when they are partially made up, if you've got a bunch of folks saying the same thing, then there's something behind that. It's not just fully invented whole cloth.
Yeah.
Again, Sam is insisting when you're stronger. And he's like, yeah, but when is that going to be?
I loved it. Sam is also like, who would I go and talk to about dragons? And even like if I found somebody, like I don't speak this language, I cannot understand Braavosi at all. This is not a job I can do. I can't go and get these stories for you. And then that's when he tells him like, when you're stronger, you can do it. And then like, when will I be stronger? And Sam does the thing. You're gonna be fine. You just need to eat. You need to rest. And Aemon is just like, because Sam is like, and when we get to Old Town. And Aemon is like, you know what? That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not making it to Old Town. And I realize that now, which is a moment of Aemon being like, acknowledging and confronting. No, this is it. If I can say it and see it and name it and accept it, I'm going to need you to do the same. And, Sam takes this and says, oh, he's afraid. And then starts to lie again. You're not dying. You're just sick. That's all. It's not a big deal. This is going to pass. Oh, man.
Yeah, he's not hearing him.
No, Aemon says again, no, not this time. It's not going to pass. And he tells Sam about a dream that he had. And,
yeah, this was, so let's see, I'm trying to find the spot. Here it is. I'll be with my brothers soon. Some were bound to me by vows and some by blood, but they were all my brothers. And my father, he never thought the throne would pass to him, and yet it did. He used to say that was his punishment for the blow that slew his brother. And Austin's Info Corner. He has given us some information. Aemon talks about his father, King Maekar, who was called a kinslayer for killing his brother. He accidentally killed him during trial by combat. And do me a favor and back up a little bit because I'm still hearing myself. Let's see, I'm trying to find this. Yeah, here it is where Gilly gets lost and she's just never been around crowds like this in her life. And it's very, very overwhelming. I really felt for her with that. Like that kind of feeling of being so exposed because you don't know where you are and nobody around you is like speaking the language even that like that is so scary. And that is scary even if you did grow up somewhere that has crowds and whatnot, but put that on top of it and oh my God, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh yeah, here it is. Dragons, the grief and glory of my house they were. I'm beginning to remember them. I see them in my dreams. I see a red star bleeding in the sky. I still remember red. I see their shadows on the snow, hear the crack of leathern wings, feel their hot breath. My brothers dreamed of dragons too, and the dreams killed them, every one. We tremble on the cusp of half-remembered prophecies, of wonders and terrors that no man now living could hope to comprehend. Or, said Sam. Or not, Eamon chuckled softly. Or I am an old man, feverish and dying. And
this is when he
that
says I should
just
not have left
found
the wall.
funny.
Yeah, but we were talking a lot about that in the last episode about how this is a world where magic has been underground, for almost all of recent memory. There's nobody left alive that ever really saw a dragon. And now this magic is awakening and presenting itself and showing itself to the world again. And this description that Eamon does in this moment is really all of that, right? That's all of that we tremble on a cusp of half-remembered prophecies and wonders. Like it's all the old Nan stories. It's not sure. Like I love the half-remembered prophecies because I was like, oh, what's he talking about? And then it's like, oh wait, it's half-remembered. I haven't gotten the whole story yet from anybody. But you gotta imagine like all the different prophecies from the different faiths. You got the red priest out there waiting for what's the face to show up, and it's just that they are just living in. I think that's just a good description of where this world is right now.
Yeah.
And and then the way he ends it with that or I'm just fucking having fever dreams, because so many of the people we have encountered are of that camp. That's all nonsense. There's no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as dragons and others, and you might as well be just having a fever dream right now when you're talking to me.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like
snarks and grumpkins.
Yep. I love that little piece, and I love the way that it ends. But I'm just an old man, feverish and dying, because those really are like the two camps that you could be in.
So finally, he gets Sam to agree to go down to the ships. I will if you want. So he leaves Gilly. It's just immediately as he's leaving, she's going to weep again. It was more than he could take. So he gets dressed and goes out. And we find out that the Braavosi, like their fashion situation is really different.
This is so interesting. Yeah, it's completely inverted, and I had Austin shared in the group this clip of Martin on a talk show, and he was speaking. It was about the Marybald speech, right? The monologue. And so
yes.
I don't know if so it was really about George getting conscientious objector status during Vietnam. But one of the things he says in the interview when he's talking about writing about war and what it must have been like when you think of these old-fashioned, old-time battles and everything, he says specifically how you have to remember at the time your poor people and your peasants, everything's going to be brown. Everything, there's no color anywhere. Everything looks like dirt. And everything you wear is like rough spun and it's, dark and gray and drab and brown. And the only people that could afford finer clothes and silks and especially things like color were the rich people. So when, a lord came galloping through your little village and they have these beautiful, brightly colored banners, you may have gone 20 years since you've seen something that was yellow or orange, fabric-wise.
Right.
And so I had just watched that video when Austin posted it. And then this chapter for this week, we hear in Braavos how it's completely the opposite. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, that is such a, like, and it doesn't really explain it either. So I guess, my guess is that it's almost like a class thing. Not so much on, like, who can afford to wear what, but almost like if you are, like, it's garish,
Yeah.
Look at those, because that's kind of how we are now, right? Low class people
definitely.
wearing like really bright colors that like more well-to-do people would never have those color schemes, in their wardrobe. And it really feels like that here. Like, oh, look at those tacky motherfuckers and all that yellow, where I'm over here looking very dignified in my steel gray and my black trench coat or whatever the fuck it is I'm wearing.
Yeah, I almost wonder because, like, Braavos was founded as a city of slaves who had, gotten out and were creating a world for themselves. And maybe they associate those colors with the masters. And basically, like, you're aligning yourselves. You're a class traitor, if you wear the colors that they wore. Total theory. Do not have.
I would love
to. But
I would love to hear more about this. I don't know if it comes up anywhere or if there's any ancillary material, but I think it's just really interesting. This sort of switcheroo that they pulled here. I'd like that. There probably is like a backstory or a history of Braavos floating around out there somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
Right.
Definitely.
And I guess I'm probably not allowed to read it, but
the sound of like resignation in your voice, man. I'm probably not allowed to read
like
it.
You posted something in the group and tagged me, but then also told me I couldn't read it.
But I just wanted you to know. But for those interested, it was about how what's his face? Ian, God, what the hell's his name? Played a version of Septon Maribald, except it wasn't.
Oh, Ian McShane. Ian McShane. Yeah.
And they like completely removed his famous speech from the episode, despite the fact that they had not only written it but filmed it and named the episode after that speech.
They actually filmed that speech?
Yeah.
Oh, and then just chose not to.
And that's why he agreed to the project, was because the monologue was so moving, because it was a very small role.
Yeah,
it
was
really liked the monologue, and then they just like psych.
What the fuck, man?
I know. Yeah, it's very annoying. There's Jesus so much Christ. About the production of the show that just blows my mind. I swear to God. So yeah, he heads out, he gets harassed by a couple guys who are like, you're dressing above your station. And like what he's doing, as well as heading to the docks for info, is looking for Darian. And, he's telling himself like, oh, he's my sworn brother. He'll know what to do. But like, again,
also chastising himself for thinking badly.
Yeah.
Not only
maybe he's out here dead in a ditch somewhere.
Like, how dare I just assume that he's being irresponsible and drunk, and then he's like, he may not even be able to take care of himself. Just because a man sings about battles doesn't mean he knows how to fight in one. Like, he could be really hurt. And that's just such a Sam thing to do.
It is. Yeah. So, these dudes are harassing him, and then this little child rolls up, because they're just like, oh, what do you think, you're a lord? And this child's like, he's not a lord, he's from the Night's Watch, you idiot. She calls him so stupid.
Yeah, I love this because the way it's written too, like it's Sam starts to sputter a response to this guy. These guys also, I have to mention, one of them is named Taro, and they're pulling the fucking thing where one of them doesn't speak in the common tongue, so he's saying something real off, real flippant in his native tongue. And then the friend translates the insult to Sam. My friend,
she's like, "Oh, he's
says,
saying that you look like a giant pig, and you smell, and your butt smells, and you like to smell your own butt."
and like, and the Sam is like trying to get an answer out back to these guys. That's when this little girl interrupts, and I love just the way it's like her words. He's not a lord; he's in the Night's Watch. And then it just says from Westeros. And then the girl edged into the light, and we get the description of what she looks like. And we know, right? We all know immediately.
We all know
what's happening here. And then she tells, she informed the two Braavos. What does it say? It says, oh, there's another one down at the Happy Port singing songs to the sailor's wife. So she's telling these two assholes, there's another Night's Watch guy around here too. Mm-hmm. And that's how it turns out she knows where Darian is. Because Sam has no reason to think that she, right? He did no reason to even think to stop and ask her any questions, but she just sort of inserts herself. And then this whole exchange with him and Arya, I'm just like, I know that it's not going anywhere right this minute, though I am really curious what happens next, because again, talking about the show briefly, none of this happened in the show. When Sam does go to Old Town eventually, I can't remember what season it was, I don't think they spend any time in Braavos at all.
No, they do not. They just skip over it.
They skip over that. He drops Gilly off. We meet his family. We meet the Tarleys, and then he's in Old Town Citadel. So I don't know what this leads to, if anything, in the book. Meaning, I don't know how long Sam and them are stuck in Braavos. I don't know if because he gets stuck there, maybe he runs into Arya or Kat a couple more times. Like, I really don't know. But I knew that at least for this chapter, can't explain it, but I just knew that it wasn't going to move in any direction of them coming to an understanding of who they are to each other. Right.
Right.
So I'm reading it and I'm just like, oh, say the thing. Say the thing. I know nobody's going to say the thing, but come on, say it. What do you fucking say it? And I really thought, this is what I really thought. And it took me a second. But after a page or two, I went back to this sort of them meeting each other, and I realized she recognizes Sam immediately as being from the Night's Watch, but never gives in to what I would have thought would have been a strong impulse to ask about Jon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it took me a minute for me to even realize that didn't happen. And maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe I'm making a misreading, but I feel like the Arya that we've been watching would have been like, do you know Jon Snow? Maybe not say I'm Arya Stark, but she definitely would have been like, oh, you're from the Night's Watch? Did you ever know Jon Snow? Can you you know what I mean? Something. And she doesn't, which I guess means in some capacity she is getting better at being no one, maybe she's starting to let some of that stuff go. I mean, I won't know again until I'm in her POV again to see like where she is now. But I just thought that was remarkable that she runs into somebody and has the restraint to, like, how does she not ask him 8 million questions? But she doesn't. I just wanted to mention that.
She's learned that not everybody is to be trusted with information. They're far enough away. God knows what could even happen. Like she's gone through so much that I think that there's a part of it that's just, I'm trying to be no one and really give up part of my identity. But I also think that there is an aspect of like, I have been burned before by people that I thought were on my side, and they took me hostage and did not get me to my family in time. And
like, I'm not surprised that she doesn't reveal anything about herself, but I was really struck that she doesn't ask any questions.
That's true. That's true.
Like she wouldn't, I'm not surprised she didn't say who she was, but she could have just said, she's clearly from Westeros. From her accent, he's going to know that. So she could have just been like, on my travels, I had heard, or I met this guy one time, and, he, I was in the woods lost and he helped me, or whatever. And she doesn't go prying or fishing for any information. yet, at least. I don't know. Like I said, we'll see if they run into each other again, or if Sam is in Braavos for any extended period of time. But anyway,
she has that prepared story about who she actually is, and I'm wondering if it's just there's no real way to fit Jon Snow into that narrative.
Maybe
because like he helped me in the woods. She's not supposed to have been anywhere near any woods. She's like lived her life on a ship, kind of thing. Like, how would that even have? How do you tell that story convincingly? And how do you ensure that he doesn't go and tell Jon, "Oh, I met this girl who knew you, and she was very small and tomboy like, and had this skinny sword." Might give some things away, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, this is when she tells him about her father being Oar Master on Nymeria and all this stuff. And then she asks, what ship are you going to be sailing on? Because he's talking about going on to Old Town. And he says, we bought passage on the Lady Ushanora. And she's like, she's left like a week ago. Are you aware of that? And then we find out how this went down. Like you said, the guy was not willing to wait, and he was also not going to refund their money. And Sam is so infuriated because he's got Darian with him, but the guy does not open his mouth and make Sam do like all of the sweet talking and attempts at negotiating and everything, and does not help. And then once they see the ship sailing away, he just says something like, well, I guess that's that. And Sam is just ready to fucking kill him.
Yeah. Especially because
that makes sense.
Sam is frustrated because he's like, I've seen you, he calls it his honeyed tongue. So he's like, I know you have it in you to sweet talk, but you'll do it to get like a girl's pants off, but you won't do it for this endeavor.
Yeah.
Also, the captain has made a home visit to check on Aemon himself. So when Sam is like, we just need a couple of days, the guy is like, nah, I saw him.
Yeah.
A couple of days is not going to change fucking anything, except that he might die, and then you will come. And then his parting words are basically like, you can come with me and leave like the old man here to die, or you could, stay here and let him die and miss the ship. But either way is not my concern. And he's definitely not getting on my ship, because he's not going to die on my ship and give me like bad luck for 20 years or whatever the fucking, the deal is with that. I'm sure it's considered very bad luck to have somebody die on your ship.
Yeah, I have to imagine.
Yeah.
So let's see. She warns him about the Happy Port, which is, she says that if you run into a man who asks you who the most beautiful lady is, you have to tell them the Nightingale, or they will challenge you to a fight. Also, just walking around with your sword is like inviting challenge. You really shouldn't have that with you if you're not planning on a fight.
Yep. And
the whore that he is interested in, she only sleeps with men who marry her. So this means that he is going to get married in order to sleep with her, and Sam takes this extremely seriously.
He really does.
He can't get married. He's one of the Night's Watch. He took vows,
and then runs over to this place.
He's saving the man's soul, which I'm sure is how he sees it.
Absolutely. And I just it's such a, I don't know, it's such a misreading of the situation, and I don't know what to do with it, because I guess this is Sam being naive. Is that why he doesn't understand? Is it his lack of experience with this type of world? Because later on when he's talking to Darian at the Happy Port, he says to Sam, didn't you ever basically go down to Mole Town? And Sam is like, actually, no, I didn't. He's like, well, sure, you've been fucking Gilly all this time, right? And Sam So Sam taking this so literal, like he's going to get married and it's going to ruin his Night's Watch career and count as breaking his vow, is just Sam completely misunderstanding the context of all this because he has no experience.
I think so. And I think also that Sam sees himself as having a responsibility to Darian because he is his sworn brother, and thinking like, I am supposed to keep him from breaking his vows or do what I can to like help him, because in his mind, that is what Darian would do for him. Like he still, I think, is not really willing to face just how done Darian actually is with the Night's Watch. And so I think there's like an aspect of that. And also if he breaks his vows in like a particular way, he can be executed, which because we are aware of what is likely happening here, which is to say he's just going to bail from the Night's Watch, I'm not like worried about that. But I don't think Sam has any idea that he's thinking of just straight up leaving. So he's like, this guy is going to have like, he's putting himself in a position where he can get his fucking head cut off, and he doesn't think beyond to like, well, exactly what would have to happen in order for that danger to be real. And is that likely, you know?
Yeah, it's like the moment early on in the story when Jon is going to leave the Night's Watch and all his brothers show up, you know, to keep him from making that mistake. And it's like Sam is still operating as if those were the circumstances that they're in, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just, again, just a real misread on Sam's part of not only the circumstances they're in, but the man that he's dealing with, you know? So he gets finally to this house and finds Darian there. And he is, of course, already drunk. He's got the woman that he's his wife, air quotes, sitting on his lap. She's got nothing on except his Night's Watch cloak. Then she comes and drapes herself all over Sam, who is more uncomfortable than I think he has ever been in his entire life.
I think so. Yes. Yeah, this whole scene is so like, he walks in and then Darian tells him like, I probably have enough coin if you want to fuck a girl, which just the fact that he is like offering Sam money when the whole thing is that they don't have any for basics to survive is just so gross. It's just so gross.
Yep. And Sam thinks this, but doesn't call him out on that.
No.
He thinks immediately, oh, you're offering me coins to fuck this girl, but, you know, this is the coin that could have bought us food and, you know, warmth and everything. But what he says out loud is, what have you done? You can't get married, you know? So, again, maybe if he had said that shit out loud about the money, then he wouldn't have had to punch Darren in the face later. You know, he's holding all this shit in, and then it just comes out in an explosion later on. That's why you gotta, like, say the things, people.
Say your shit, guys. So when he continues to be like, what are you fucking doing? Darian's like, why are you scolding me? I already have a wife to scold me. I don't need you. I hate my wife. And then you said the words, you're supposed to be my brother in Westeros. Does this look like Westeros to you? That Maester Aemon is dying. That stripy healer you wasted all our silver on said as much. Have a girl or go away. I'll go, but you'll come with me. No, I'm done with you. I'm done with black. Darian tore his cloak off his naked bride and tossed it in Sam's face. Here, throw that rag on the old man. It may keep him a little warmer. I shan't be needing it. I'll be clad in velvet soon. Next year, I'll be wearing furs and eating. Sam hit him. And I'm going to read this whole thing, you guys. He did not think about it. His hand came up, curled into a fist, and crashed into the singer's mouth. Darian cursed, and his naked wife gave a shriek, and Sam threw himself onto the singer and knocked him backward over a low table. They were almost of a height, but Sam weighed twice as much, and for once he was too angry to be afraid. He punched the singer in the face and in the belly, then began to pummel him about the shoulders with both hands. When Darian grabbed his wrists, Sam butted him with his head and broke his lip. Good for you, buddy. Good for you, buddy. I'm so proud of you. I love this so much.
The singer let go and he smashed him in the nose. Somewhere a man was laughing.
Oh man.
But somebody comes and breaks them up and throws Sam. It says someone dragged Sam off of the singer's chest. So Sam hit him too.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot he hits a whole other person.
And then next thing you know, he's outside and he's been thrown like just out of the bar or the whatever this is, the whorehouse, the pub. Throws him out, and basically he just ends up landing in the water. You know.
Yeah.
Boom,
they throw him right in the canal.
Right into the canal, head first. And then we get a really, truly terrifying sequence of Sam about to drown to death.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is an what do they call it? Ignominious ending to that fight. And eventually he's like, I have to swim. Maester Aemon will die without me, and Gilly will have no one. And then he feels a splash, and somebody like wraps their arm around him, and he thinks it's an eel that's going to kill him.
At one point, he is swimming desperately, and his nose bumps into the bottom of the fucking canal, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm upside down." Like, he is, with everything he has, he is moving and moving and moving, and it is the wrong fucking direction. It's not funny, but it is funny.
Oh, that is so scary. Poor Sam. He opens his eyes, and it's the Summer Islander that he had seen in the brothel who is helping him, and he says, "You fucked my whole cloak up. I can't believe you ruined this.
You owe me many feathers." I also like that while he was in the water, Sam thinks over and over, you know, I'm drowned. And when after he's pulled up and out of the water, the guy starts doing like, or, you know, their version of like CPR or whatever, you know, and like getting Sam to vomit up a lot of the water that he swallowed. But Sam, you know, is very disoriented. He's like, wait, what are you doing? Stop.
Why are you beating the shit out of me?
Right? And then he's like, starts saying out loud, I haven't drowned. And this guy is just like, no, you haven't.
I really, really enjoy. Sam says, I never meant to be swimming. Zondo saw. Too much splashing. Fat men should float. Which is 100% correct. If you are fat, you float. You don't have to put in any effort. Just stop moving and you would reach the top, Sam. It would have been fine. You just stop moving. Like, granted, he's got like his sword on and stuff, but you just
and a heavy cloak
and unhook that, and like you'll just float like
at one point, because they mentioned as he's running to find Arian that his sword belt keeps like slipping around, you know, and he has to hold it up with one hand. And so then when he's in the water, at one point, the sword belt goes all the way down and like wraps around his ankles and ties his ankles all up.
God.
So this guy, you know, he saves Sam, picks him up, and he says, he's speaking and he can barely speak, you know, this common language, so it's very broken. But he's basically like, you know, I'm on this ship, the Cinnamon Wind, so I got like a little bit of a lot of languages. And he says, inside, the way he talks, he also refers to himself in the third person, which I am such a sucker for. I don't know why, but that shit always cracks me up. So his name is like Zondo, and he says, inside, Zondo laughs to see you punch the singer, and Zondo hears. And then he smiles, and he says, Zondo knows these dragons. So, yeah. Sam may not have brought coins or Darien back to Aemon, but he is going to bring some type of intel. I don't know how true it will be. I can't wait to hear what this guy knows and see how close it is to what we have learned already as readers. Or if it's just completely bonkers, off the wall, QAnon level conspiracy bullshit. I cannot wait to hear what the stories of the dragons are is even, and I've talked to you guys before about that. Like, I'm desperate to know, like, what little tendrils are slipping through the cracks and making their way back to our, air quotes, our side of the world. Braavos isn't really our side of the world. It's not Westeros. But I can't wait to hear. Like, are they going to have stories of Daenerys being like 20 feet tall? You know, like a dragon rider. You know what I mean? Like,
I love
like,
that. That did not occur to me.
You know, like it could be anything. They could be like, he got 3 titties, 1 for each dragon. Who knows? Like, it could be anything.
Oh, this is turning into a fascinating sculpture possibility.
So yeah,
like
I'm very excited to hear what Zondo has to share, whether it'll be like rooted in truth and reality, whether it'll be just like all spectacle. Who knows? But that's how Sam's chapter ends.
Yeah, and I want to mention like the whole so as we get closer to like the end of the series with coverage, some of the jokes that Brendan and I made become a little bit clearer in my mind. And one of the things that really got me, and I still remember how hard I laughed, was that he was like fascinated with the concept of Arya being like around Braavos and just, like starting some trouble potentially, but also being like a literal child still. And he described her as having, I think, like a retainer or something. And so her being like, some cats have claws when she shows off her sword, and that being because she's got the retainer in her mouth, which I don't know why, but that laid me out and became like one of those running jokes that people would reference like prongs with Harry Potter. And then the other one is, I think I told you that when it comes to like the bastard of the Dreadfort, which is Ramsay Bolton,
mm-hmm.
I can't remember if I told you, but Brendan always used to say it, bastard of the Dreadfort. And he would similarly with Cinnamon Wind, he decided that this sounded like a hairband ballad. And he would say Cinnamon Wind every single time. So just know that that's going to be in our future probably, because it's very catchy and it got in my head, and it's been like 10 years and it's still there. So
that's a really funny. The cinnamon, when I read Cinnamon Wind, I immediately thought of those international coffees. You remember the instant coffee?
Yeah.
So that's what I saw, like a very well put together suburban middle-aged mom having a quiet moment to herself in an otherwise busy day where she's being pulled in a million directions. And then finally she could sit down and relax and escape with a cup of her Cinnamon Wind.
Cinnamon Wind. And this is Vanilla Breeze.
Exactly. But I do really enjoy the hairband as well.
All right, so Jaime. We start Jaime's chapter off with, shockingly, Cersei giving him shit and breaking his balls.
Oh my god. The way that he still wants to fuck her so bad, though, even I was like, Sir, are you okay? Like,
no,
blink twice. He is not okay. Like, nah. He doesn't even like her anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, he fundamentally does not seem to like her. It says something later, like, every time he sees her, he just gets angry.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, he still wants to fuck her real, real bad.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, I'm not trying to pretend like that is not something that doesn't happen in real life. I mean, it does. You know, I think we've all had somebody where we're just like, oh, this goddamn motherfucker. Ooh, I'd like to fuck him though. You know, like I think we've all had that. But I don't know, you guys. Something about, I guess when I'm wrestling, I don't know how to explain this. I think I am starting to feel the tension between this possibly new version of Jaime. And I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to be like, I'm not a stan, right? But but it does feel like Jaime might be possibly, maybe capable.
Theoretically, you could think about.
Right? Maybe some self-awareness and some growth, right? Like maybe he does have the capacity for those things. And Cersei, up to this point, does not seem to have any of that. No interest in it, no capacity for it. And if somebody told her she needed it, she would tell them to go fuck themselves. She's the perfect way she is, right? So when I think about this Jaime struggling to be a better Jaime, and this is really funny too, because as I'm saying that sentence, all I see in my head is Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso, who is also struggling to be a better Jaime.
Indeed.
You know, but so I see
somebody cut off Jamie Tart's left or right foot.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! But so we have Jaime Lannister wrestling with like what kind of man he wants to really be, and Cersei just seems like a fucking albatross tied around his neck. You know, just fucking like everything about her just brings him down a level to like his worst self. You know what I mean? And so I think what's happening for me as a reader is I keep thinking any day now he's gonna be just like, fuck this cunt. You know, I am done. But then when they're together, he clearly does not like her, but he still wants to fuck her. And I am so frustrated by this. And I was really surprised at how frustrated I was. So that tells me that it's just going to get worse for me.
Yeah, the only thing that's sort of like alloying it is that every time that he's considering how he'd like to fuck her, he then hears Tyrion's voice in his head. And so it interrupts the like pleasant daydream with the possibility that like maybe this is not the person that I thought, but it's still, the instinct is still there. Just like, I just want to lay her out and rip her clothes off. And she slaps him in the face at one point, and he's like, there used to be a time where I could have made her fuck me instead of slap me. Sir.
And then she's here like picking up, she has definitely picked up that he is not the same, right? And how could he be the same? She seems to really believe it is all about him having lost his hand, and that's a big part of the change in him. But he also had what he went through, I think, is more responsible for the changes in him. And then the hand is just like accenting and like, you know, really put the period on the end of the sentence. But so Cersei knows he's not the same man, but she constantly throws it in his face like he's a lesser version of who he was before, you know? And she tells him all the color is draining from you. And then she plucks out like a gray out of his beard, you know? And
there was something kind of compelling about that.
Yeah, she says, you become a ghost of what you were, a pale, crippled thing, and so bloodless, always in white. She also just seems to loathe him now. I don't know, you guys. It's really sad in a way that makes me uncomfortable, because it's like, oh, do I want them to still be a couple and loving each other and fucking each other? And it's not that that's what I'm into, that's what I want, but to see their relationship deteriorate this way, there is something really sad about it, even though we don't particularly like them, you know?
Yeah.
There's a sadness to watching two people who were once so aligned. You know, it was like they shared one brain, and then just how they're like strangers to each other now.
Oh man, I just like, it's so fraught, because like they're fucking committing incest,
right?
Know? Like their situation is so toxic, so you like, don't want them to be like, you don't want like, that.
Exactly. It's like I'm not rooting for the incest, but also, Like, I should be glad that it's over, because that wasn't great. You shouldn't have been doing that. And it wasn't great for either your mental health. But also something sad about the breakup.
Really. And it's like, there's part of me that feels so like, Cersei, can't you also gain some sort of self-awareness and move forward? And of course, I'm going to say probably not, because it seems fundamentally antithesis to her character. However, if they were both capable of this, would they even be committing incest anymore? Like, would that preclude the relationship entirely if they both grew more as people?
Right. I think that's a really interesting question. I like, because to be honest, is there any part of our imaginations that can see a healthy Jaime Cersei brother sister relationship devoid of incest? Like, there's no way to, what is that, unring that bell? You can't go back to just being regular brother and sister. I mean, it's impossible. There's no way. They have so fundamentally changed the dynamics of what that relationship is supposed to be like, that it's either going to be that incest, and that, we share the same brain and we're almost the same person, or there's not going to be any relationship at all. There's there's no way for it to be anything else. Yeah. Poor Jaime.
Yeah, these two fucking, what a mess. What a damn mess.
Yeah, and there's like no undoing it, So she's sending him away. That's what this chapter is about. She's going to, I'm sorry, Tommen is sending him away.
Oh my God. Yeah, let's be really clear about how that's definitely what's happening here. 100% Tommen knows what that means and what he is asking for.
So, and he is supposed to be the Kingsguard, right? So he's not supposed to be getting sent any fucking where. And this is his argument back. She wants him to go to the Riverlands to fucking wrap up this bullshit with Tullys and get this squared away. And also swing by Harrenhal for me real quick and clean that up too for me. And Jaime is like, I'm the fucking Kingsguard. I'm supposed to be here next to the king. What the fuck are you talking about? And she says, well, I think it's Osmond, she says. Osmond can be command the Kingsguard while you're gone. And this is just like feeding that fire that's in Jaime's brain, what Tyrion said, that refrain. Soon as she mentions Osmond's name, he goes right back to that. And she's been fucking Lancel and Osmond Ketterback, a moon boy for all I know. And Jaime gets really angry and is like, you don't fucking get to decide who commands the Kingsguard. And if I have to fucking leave, then it's Loras who's going to be in charge. To which Cersei, how dare?
Oh my God. Yeah, he's suggesting a Tyrell, and she's probably already going, well, I guess he's turned his cloak as well. Like, the way that this is like feeding into her paranoia. I mean, it's just so.
It's feeding into his too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The thing is that's so frustrating is like, he isn't saying, I believe that Loras is like a better protector. He says this to her, but that's not what it's about. Even though I think that he would, if like pressed, he would say that was true. That it is Lancel who is better because he is. But we know that's not at the root of his protest here. And so the two of them are both just like needling each other in these ways that it's like they're doing so much more harm because they know one another's weak points, and they each are suspicious of the other at this point in ways that they hadn't used to be. And it's just it's frustrating to watch.
Yeah. And then he counters and says, well, if you hadn't sent Balon Swan to Dorne. Balon Swan was the protector of Marcella, right? That we met. Or is Balon Swan someone? I couldn't remember that guy's name because that guy's dead now, by the way. When that little
that was Eris Oakhart.
That was Oakheart. All right. So Balin Swan
Yeah.
is someone that's been recently sent to Dorne, I'm assuming.
Right.
And was that covered in her last chapter when she has the small council meeting?
Oh my God, right. Austin's reminding me that in the show, they send Jaime to Dorne, which I had totally forgot he goes to Dorne. Like,
He goes to Dorne?
Right? This is what I'm saying.
I don't remember that. It must have been... I know we talked about how on the show they killed Marcella because you had forgotten about that, but I don't remember Jaime.
I'm trying to see what we've got. Let's see. Balin is abruptly reassigned by the Queen Regent to bring Doran the skull of Sir Gregor Clegane. So that's what he's been sent to Dorne.
Okay, so we knew she was sending the head back. I don't remember. I just forgot who she sent to do it. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
All right. So basically, they're at the impasse. He thinks it should be Loras Tyrell commanding while he's away. Cersei is like, absolutely fucking not. And they argue about that a little bit until eventually she smacks him in the face. Because he says, basically, I see why you don't want Loras, because he doesn't stare at your tits all day like some people do. And she smacks him in the face, and he kind of likes it. And then she tells him he can get out. While she tells him that he is lost in his own mind, thinking about how he wants to fuck her, he gets that line again and interrupts him. And she's like, are you fucking deaf? I told you to leave. But he's been so in his head. So finally he leaves. And next thing you know, we're starting our little trek. And he makes a very interesting choice that I did not see coming. And I didn't think I was going to care about any of this. But, y'all, he decides that Ellen Payne should come with him.
Yeah.
So, this was something.
What do you think?
I don't know what to think. So, it turns out that this guy was one of the guards of a hand, like a hands guard, I guess. Back in the day when Aerys was still king, and he was like a regular guy. I had never stopped to consider anything about Payne, quite frankly. I just didn't. Not on the show, not in the books. But he was just a regular guy out in the world. And the story is that he was overheard boasting that the hand that he worked for, who I forget who that was basically running the whole show because Aerys was an idiot, right?
Right.
And so to punish him for saying that, King Aerys has his tongue removed.
Yeah.
I guess shortly after that, Robert wins the rebellion, and Robert sort of as a token to Tywin. I guess Tywin would have been hand. So Payne would have been in Tywin's like hands guard. So Robert sends Ellen Payne and gives him like the position of Justice of King's Justice, which apparently is kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
also.
it's sort of an honor.
Right, which it never occurred to me that was something that would be considered an honor. And then there are two other positions. There's the King's Justice. There's the something confessor, which they haven't had anybody in that position in it seems like a long time. And then there's like a chief jailer or a chief goaler. And that's like the Department of Justice for Westeros.
Yeah, basically.
But so I didn't know that position had any sort of honor to it. I thought, quite frankly, that it was like a punishment. That's what I kind of I didn't even realize I made that assumption, but I did. And I realized it when I was reading actually what it was, because it was so different than what I had thought. And that, when Jaime goes to ask him to join this command, the way this guy lives, this is no good. This is no good.
No, this is like, what if you had depression but you didn't have indoor plumbing?
This is real bad. Real bad. And so, like, I don't know what this man has to do now. It's stunning to me how little I thought about this character and how just little consideration I gave it.
Same.
The toll that this takes on him, I guess is reflected in how he lives. And also, not just what he does is the king's justice, but like not being able to communicate, because we find out later that he also can't read and can't write. Which I was like, oh, really? I thought all the knights were like, but I really don't know how true that is. It could be like another wild assumption I made. That like all the knights were literate. But yeah, like how isolated it must be for him. And that he just chops off people's heads all day and then goes up to his room and drinks himself to sleep every night and like doesn't change any of the chamber pots. And like when Jaime first opens the door, one of the first things that happens is he almost steps on a rat, and the stench that he describes, and it's awful. It's terrible.
Yeah. I want to read this part. Let's see. The chambers stank of rotted food, and the rushes were crawling with vermin. As Jaime entered, he almost trod upon a rat. Payne's greatsword rested on a trestle table beside a whetstone and a greasy oilcloth. The steel was immaculate, the edge glimmering in blue in the pale light, but elsewhere, piles of soiled clothing were strewn about the floors, and bits of mail and armor scattered here and there were red with rust. Jaime could not count the broken wine jars. And Ilyn comes out of the bedchamber, and it says that it reeked of overflowing chamber pots. And he asks him to come, and Ilyn doesn't make a move or do anything. And Jaime is finally like, all right then. And he starts to turn to leave, and then Ilyn gives a nod. And once they're on the road, Jaime's like, I don't know, but I get the vibe that he's glad he came. So,
I love earlier that Jaime's like, I picked the perfect fucking riding companion because like he's not going to be a bunch of fucking incessant chatter. And I love that for Jaime.
I really wondered, like, do they not have, maybe Ilyn just, scared people away or was like, I don't want it. But I would have thought that they'd have maids that would take care of his space. And it may just be that he was like, nobody's allowed in my fucking area. Or it could be that he is so intimidating and scary that nobody wants to go near him,
Yeah. I that's a really good question. I think I initially would have thought that, people were just so creeped out by everything about him that nobody wants to fuck with it. But then I was like, well, no, because if he had expressed like, hey, no, I need maid service, and they're gonna have to come clean his room. So it has to be that he's also not insisting on it. Yeah. Maybe he knows how uncomfortable people are around him, and that's why he doesn't insist. Like, he probably could, but maybe he's just like, at some point, now I feel like now it's clear that he's just given up. But maybe at the beginning, before things got quite as dire and as bleak as they've become, maybe he was just so uncomfortable or insecure or just kind of like self-conscious, like having to look at the face of somebody who's terrified of you, and seeing that fear on their face when they look at you can be a lot, maybe he just didn't want to see it anymore.
Yeah. I just really like the idea that, because like you said, you don't give a lot of thought to him. He is this figure that feels almost like a monster on the periphery. He doesn't speak. He is the headsman. You think, of course, like, oh, he probably enjoys the job and is like very intimidating on purpose, and that there's a cultivated aspect to this sort of, what's the word I want? Reputation, I guess. And to stop and really think about, like, what if that's not it at all? What if this isn't something he wanted? What if this isn't, like, he is now decided he's going to lean into it because this is his life, and what else does he have? But so he keeps his sword sharp, but anything involved with his personal protection, the armor, neglected completely. There's a real sense of like, I don't care what happens to me at this point.
I love the fact that when we're describing the room, Jaime specifically calls out, how beautiful the sword is still, how well it's taken care of. because in contrast to the rest of the room, it's the only thing in the room that he cares about. Oh, man.
And the fact that, like, he's really good at his job, because apparently being a headsman is not that easy. So you can fuck up an execution, and he almost never even needs a second stroke. Never mind, like, really botching it.
Yeah, imagine turning out to be really good at something like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because I'm trying to picture, like, we don't know a lot about him before this happened, before he is punished for treason or whatever. But you have to imagine the type of person that would be boasting like that, right? So you got to figure someone that's pretty arrogant, someone that's probably on the younger side, maybe was out having a couple of drinks with his friends, you know what I mean? And you start talking that shit. And trying to picture Ellen Payne in that way, I can barely picture it.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, who are you? That's a whole different person. And yeah, I guess it kind of was a whole different person, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, once they start fighting, Jaime is thinking, like, maybe there's hope for both of us. He's kind of comparing himself because of what got taken from him, and the fact that, like, he could very easily go down a road like this where, he gets given some bullshit thing to do and has given up on every other thing in his life and just is like, fine, I guess this is what I am now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's not like there's no sense that Jaime sets out to make life better for Ellen Payne. It just seems to me that there's a part of him that seems to wonder and understand a little better and feel a kind of camaraderie that he hasn't even put words to, and is reaching out, like, almost as a form of self-preservation.
I like that a lot. I really do like the idea that Jaime sees a little bit of his own reflection when he looks at Payne.
Yeah.
See, this is our Jaime trying to think about maybe what it would possibly be like to be a better Jaime, maybe, sort of, kind of.
Maybe.
I like to, like, in the show, I think I had asked about this too a couple episodes ago, because what they did on the show is they had it be, because Jaime stays in King's Landing in the show, at least for a while. So they have Bronn be the person that he's sparring with to try to, like, get his game back up.
Right.
And that's not happening in the book at all. And I think I even asked a question about it, but it turns out that we're going to have the sparring happen with Payne instead, which was very neat, but definitely very different from the show. And a little bit
Austin
more compelling.
Has some info here because, obviously Bronn just being a character that people liked was a factor, but also apparently the actor who played Sir Ilyn was in treatment for cancer at the time. So even had they wanted to continue with that, the way it was not going to happen. But yeah, I always like the fact that he picks somebody who can't talk and repeat how terrible he has grown, because choosing Bronn, who is such a loudmouth, always felt like a little bit.
Yeah. It always felt like just like anybody could buy that information. All I had to do was name the right price,
Exactly.
But yeah, the show also did a thing where after Tyrion is gone, they make it the Bronn and Jaime show.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jaime also has a bunch of other people traveling with him. Some of them were names I kind of remembered. A lot of them were not. There's a funny, like, joke about somebody being where is it? Is it? But he's got, like, a lot of different people with him, and altogether it's about 1,000 people, I think it says. And they're making their way towards River Run, but they're going to stop at Harrenhal first. And we get, oh my God, this story about, I'm so sorry, I'm never going to move on from Ellen Payne, but I just have to mention this fucking story about the Antlermen.
Right, yes.
You guys.
Do you not remember that? Because that was talked about before.
I know we talked about it before, and it just, like, it came back, and it's like one of those things that are so upsetting that my brain is just like, yeah, no, we're not keeping that.
Yeah.
We're not keeping that. We're not going to keep that in our brain. And it was just as upsetting again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's so awful. And I know Joffrey did all kinds of terrible things, but I don't know. There's something about that one in particular. I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Let's see. Oh, this little baby Lannister lady, Ermisande?
What?
The little girl that's married to the lady that's married.
You're jumping into the castle now.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, because you just like went right from the Antlermen to.
Sorry.
So I was losing track of what you're talking about.
Yeah, sorry, I was actually literally flipping pages.
The lady of the castle was a Lannister by marriage, a plump toddler who had been wed to his cousin Tyrek before she was a year old. Lady Ermisande was duly trotted out for their approval, all trussed up in a little gown of cloth of gold, with the green Freddy and green pale wavy of House Hayford rendered in tiny beads of jade. But soon enough, the girl began to squall, whereupon she was promptly whisked off to bed by her wet nurse.
So we're just marrying toddlers now, I guess, also.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. And the Lord Tyrek is missing. We don't know. They don't know what happened to him. He rode off to battle and has not been seen since. They found his horse dead, I think, but no sign of him. And so there's talk about maybe he's being held captive, but that doesn't make sense because nobody has demanded a ransom. Mm-hmm. So it'd be weird if somebody was keeping him alive. And everybody's just like, he just vanished. And Jaime is like, oh no, he's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that probably, but they're just not saying it for whatever reason. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, at this point, come on.
Yeah. And then Jaime even says, and it's possible that after he was killed, they realized, whoops, we fucking killed a Lannister. We better hide it and just like pretend it never happened because they don't want that smoke with Tywin. And I read that and I was like, oh, you know what? That kind of checks out.
Yeah, it does, definitely. Because that's the main thing is like, well, he can't be dead because everybody would know how much more he'd be worth when he was alive. Mm-hmm. But that's assuming that you know who the fuck you've got in your custody.
Like we were talking earlier before we were recording about how you don't always know who you're talking to.
Exactly. Yes. So let's see. Tyrek had served King Robert as a squire side by side with Lancel. Knowledge could be more valuable than gold, more deadly than a dagger. It was Varys he thought of then, smiling and smelling of lavender. The eunuch had agents and informers all over the city. It would have been a simple matter for him to arrange to have Tyrek snatched during the confusion, provided he knew beforehand that the mob was like to riot. And Varys knew all, or so he would have us believe. Yet he gave Cersei no warning of that riot, nor did he ride down to the ships to see Myrcella off. And that's a very interesting idea also, though, but he didn't tell Cersei about it. And I'm like, Jaime, you just keep on... You got to think about the fact that maybe he wasn't Cersei's buddy, like he was playing everybody all the time. So then we have the first practice match between him and Sir Ilyn, and it's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It starts off with Jaime kind of feeling like, all right, this guy is out of shape too. He's as bad off as I am. So this is probably going to be evenly matched. And then Payne sort of gets the second win and starts to get on the attack. And Jaime just like, oh, I said too. I was wrong. Yep. I take it all back. Take it back. And he gets walloped pretty good. I loved it the next morning. Everybody knows better than to ask like exactly what happened to him. Like, what the fuck happened to you last night? Except one kid. And Jaime is just like, something about the women, how they love to leave little love bites or something like that about the women around his parts.
Lusty wenches in House Hayford. And he says to Ilyn when they're done, all right, well, we'll do it tomorrow, and I'm just going to keep going until I'm as good as I used to be. And Ilyn just laughs at him, and Jaime is just like, fuck.
It is like the creepiest laugh I have ever heard written. Sir Ilyn opened his mouth and made a clacking sound. A laugh, Jaime realized. Something twisted in his gut.
I'm just trying to think of how you laugh when you don't have a tongue.
Oh, it's no thank you. Nope.
He continues on doing this, knows that everybody probably suspects what's happening, but nobody asks any questions. And as they progress forward, it's like, when they first set out, this countryside was just a series of bucolic scenes of the harvest and autumn. And then as they get further out, shit starts to look worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it eventually reaches a point where everything is like burnt and torn down, and animals are like, they aren't even able to hunt the way they were, because the animals have learned to be wary. And the wolves are such a problem. Somebody's horse actually gets eaten.
Yeah.
Which is not something that ever would have happened before.
This guy that he's got leading the Holy 100, this Bonifer the Good, is like, these aren't no regular wolves. These are demons in the skins of wolves, sent to chastise us for our sins. And Jaime says that must have been an uncommonly sinful horse then.
I enjoy that. Like, Jaime, he has a humor that can be really mean-spirited, and then there are times where he's just funny. He's just actually funny, and I'm like, I like it when you don't aim it at anybody. Like, he's trying to be sort of mocking with this guy, but it could also be taken as a joke and not mocking if you were being generous about it. So let's see, a place called Sow's Horn, they found a tough old knight named Sir Roger Hogg squatting stubbornly in his tower house with 6 men-at-arms, 4 crossbowmen, and a score of peasants. Jaime was interested in what Hogg had to say of wolves. We had some trouble with a band of them White Star wolves. They came round sniffing after you, but we saw them off. Before them there was a pack of bloody lions, begging your pardon. The one who led them had a manticore on his shield. And we were no part of your shit, but it didn't stop him from slaughtering a bunch of my sheep and a couple of milk goats, and he tried to light the tower on fire and kill me. So he got bored when that didn't work and left. But honestly, what the fuck? And he says, what should we do at this point? And Jaime has to be like, well, the best you can. Sorry about it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back off the mic again, because I am hearing myself so much. If anybody's listening to this and hearing me, sorry, but there's only so much I can do to tamp that down post production without cutting off the beginning and end of Rashawn's words. So I try and not mess with it if I can help it too much, but it's coming through a lot louder than usual.
I'm sorry about that. I'm going to scooch back off
what can you do?
My desk.
I'm thinking I may get you a different pair of headphones, because those clearly bleed a lot. So, what was that?
Sorry, nothing. nothing at all.
What just happened?
I just don't want you to have to. I don't want you to have to buy new headphones. That's all.
Yeah, it's fine. I would rather shell out a little bit for new headphones than have to spend hours editing, because you can hear me in the background every time.
Okay.
It's one or the other. I know what I'll pick. So let's see. The world grew grayer as they drew near to Harrenhal. They rode beneath slate skies, beside waters that shone old and cold as a sheet of beaten steel. Jaime found himself wondering if Brienne might have passed this way before him. And I really like this, that she's on his mind during the travels as well.
Yeah. Agreed. There's
Had they encountered other travelers, he might have stopped to ask if any of them had chanced to see a pretty maid with auburn hair, or a big ugly one with a face that would curdle milk. Jaime, why do you have to be like this?
Right. And the thing is, like, he probably doesn't even really mean anything by it when he thinks that. It's just the way he thinks. And it's just
Definitely.
It's like, oh, Jaime, I thought we were trying to be better. Didn't you hear what I said about a better you?
I thought we were in agreement on this.
Before they get there, Jaime is thinking about who's all at Harrenhal, and he says that sorry. He says that Gregor Clegane had wrested the immense gloomy castle away from the Bloody Mummers before Cersei recalled him to King's Landing. So Jaime is like, they're still going to be inside the castle, though. Just because Gregor's going doesn't mean they're going to be gone, which turns out to be true. But I was not expecting half of those guys to still be there. And I cannot explain where I thought they would have gone. But when we finally make it there and they're all there, I was like, oh, Raph is still there?
Right?
What the fuck? I thought he was dead. What is happening? Like, I don't...
Nope, these guys are hanging on.
Yeah, I had just filled in a lot of, like, backstory with wrong information. I don't know. I just thought this went a very different way. And I don't know if it's because I'm confusing show shit with book shit. But I was really surprised that they were still there. How about Jaime?
I'm not even thinking, like, necessarily that it's confusing book and show shit, except for the fact that the way the show handled things was very kind of like video gamey, in that if like the bad guy who led a group went down, all of his dudes also would go down with him, and that would be the end of that crew in general. And they sort of dealt with them as a collective. And the books are much more like, no, these are all individual people. And you kill one dude, that doesn't mean all of his guys are out of the equation. They're still out here pulling horrific shit and, committing atrocities. That's just really my theory, though.
I did, because you're right. The way I view them is like as a cohort. And like, oh, one's gone, so they're all gone. But yeah, so when fucking Raph shows up, I was like, oh. Jesus Christ. And who else does he meet? Shitmouth.
I was about to say Shitmouth, this guy. He keeps saying bugger me with a spear, and finally Jaime's like, well, we better do it. And he's like, don't you fucking dare. And he's like, well, make up your mind. I don't know what to tell you. You're just really fickle. And he says that Polliver had been named Castellan by Gregor Clegane, but that he was killed by the Hound. And he's like, oh, did you see him? And he's like, no, we heard about it. He was identified beyond a doubt. And he's like, okay, well, did you send men after him? And he's like, no. And there's a guy like listening to all of this who eventually chimes in with like, we're not fucking idiots, man. There are people who are better capable of taking down the Hound than us, and we knew better to mess with some shit above our pay grade.
Yeah. He's basically like, that was because they keep talking about the mountain. They said, calling him Sir. And they're like, okay, first of all, that was Sir's brother, so it didn't really feel like our place. And then also, there are better people, better suited people. And then looks right at Jaime and he goes, like, people like you.
Yes, exactly. Which I'm like, maybe once upon a time, but
Right. I think that's exactly what Jaime thinks too. Maybe once upon a time. My God, this Boniver guy too. Turns out that he is very, very pious.
Yes.
And then that's why I don't know why I didn't make the connection. Like his Holy 100, they're like, which Jaime keeps pointing out is only like 86 dudes now. And it's just like
Holy 86.
Kind of like really taking it. Right? He's just like feeling like, I don't know if they should really be allowed to call themselves a Holy 100 anymore. It doesn't feel like false advertising.
There is this horrifying story here. I hate this.
Oh, which one?
So he first wants to see the head of Vargo Hoat, and he sees it, and it's just like, well, where's the rest of him? And everybody is like, What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Did you were asking where you're going to sleep tonight? No, I'm asking where the rest of it. I'm so sorry. I thought I heard you say, where am I going to sleep tonight? No, I was asking for guys, do you want to show him where he's going to sleep tonight? And finally they're like, all right, look, so Gregor Clegane said everybody who we've got locked up is whining that they're hungry. And maybe we should feed them some goat.
Even Hope. They fed him to himself.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Sir said to see all the captives had a taste and Hope to his own self. That Whoreson had slobber when we fed him and the grease had run down into that skinny beard of his. Father, Jaime thought, your dogs have both gone mad. He found himself remembering tales he had first heard as a child at Casterly Rock of Mad Lady Lothston, who bathed in tubs of blood and presided over feasts of human flesh within these very walls.
Jesus Christ. Now, do we ever get that backstory? Is that written somewhere?
I'm sure it is somewhere, but I don't know it. So I'll take a gander.
It's It's like who was the vampire queen that bathed in the tubs of blood to stay youthful? Yeah. Got that kind of feel to it, right? I kept waiting for the line to be like, she did all this to retain her youth, but George Martin doesn't give you that. And I was just like, oh, word? Really? That almost always follows that. I don't think I've ever seen it not implied that this behavior is done to retain youth, because that's got to be a woman's motivation, right? That's got vanity. That's got to be the woman's motivation. But no, George is like, nah, we're not telling you why she did it. We're just saying she liked to bathe in blood and eat people. That's just how she rolls.
Ooh, okay. So I went and looked her up. Daniel Lothston. Daniel had long red hair and wore tight-fitting black armor. A story told to misbehaving children said that on moonless nights, giant bats would fly from Harrenhal and take the bad children back to Mad Danelle for her cookpots. Other stories were told about Mad Lady Lothston bathing in blood and presiding over feasts of human flesh. When Lord Brynden Rivers, the hand of the king to Aerys I Targaryen, marched on White Walls to quash the Second Blackfire Rebellion, Lady Danelle was among the river lords who came in support. She turned to the Black Arts during the reign of Maekar I, causing madness and chaos and the downfall of the Lothston line. Oh, that's really hard to say.
So they're talking about she's a witch.
Basically.
Well, fooling around in the dark arts, the black arts. I mean, she was interesting.
And it mentions here that Brienne finds like a shield that she's going to have repainted, and it had a bat on it. And the lady tells her mother, like the lady who's repainting it, tells her, my mother used to frighten me with tales of Mad Danelle.
Now we had a chapter where she picks up the shield and goes and gets it painted, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's the one where she has it repainted to that like tree with a star, and it was something that she had used to see in her father's armory when she was growing up, and that's the sigil that Duncan the Tall carried.
Right.
And there was the link between her and Duncan the Tall.
Right.
And it's like right at the beginning of her journeying out to rescue Sansa.
No, I meant like I don't remember anybody remarking about the bat on the shield.
Oh, yeah. The lady, the painter.
Well, that's good to know, Lady Lothston.
Yeah. I would really like to know more about that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
that's compelling.
So let's see. So Jaime tells him just throw the fucking boat's head in the lake, which honestly probably should have done that a while ago.
It's weird to me how much people hold on to heads in this universe.
Listen, it just is riding around with them like it's no big deal. Just, it's a head. But then I guess it works out because people are always asking to see the head of somebody or the other.
It's true.
So I guess right. So I guess they know what they're doing. So Jaime's decided that he's going to leave this Boniver guy, this Boniver Hasty, in his Holy 100 back at Harrenhal. They're going to run this shit, which is also great for Jaime because he's tired of this guy. And it'd be great not to have to keep traveling with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells that the rest of Hoat's men that are around, or Clegane's men, I guess they actually are, that they can stay at Harrenhal with Boniver, or they can ride
if he'll
with him,
have them.
If he'll have
which
them.
he won't,
or you,
mostly.
Right? And you guys could ride with me to River Run. And then these guys are like, that sounds cool and all, but what about the monies? There were supposed to be many, many monies. And fucking, is it Boniver or is it Jaime? One of them is like, oh, you can work here with me, and I guess it must be Boniver because Jaime's going to be on the road. You can work here, and I'll give you land, and then when you get married, I'll give you a little bit of this, and then when you have a kid, I'll give you a little bit of that. And they're like, yeah, no. We're talking about...
Because he's like, all of it's like, oh yeah, it's land that you can work, and they're like, work?
Work,
oh
right?
God.
Like,
did you just say work to me?
Right? Like, we're henchmen. We don't work. We're henchmen for hire. Have you met us?
We done henched. Where is the hire part? Our henching days are quick coming to a close. We are going to hench retirement.
Right?
I can't be henching at this age. My knees are bad. You know, you gotta have good knees to hench. It's a lot of bending down involved. Ugh.
But so they are not impressed. But also I think it's really funny that the way Boniver is doling out these rewards too, right? So you're going to get a little bit of land, and then you're going to get a wife, and then you're going to have a kid, because that is what good godly men do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to reward you for each step you take in becoming a good and godly man. You're going to marry, you're going to have a kid, you're going to work this land, and it is just really funny how he can say out loud to these people this. I mean, clearly he knows these people are not going to be interested in any of this. So it's not even like it's a real offer, I think. He's just sort of stating what he plans to do, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't expect
this is what is on the table. And if you choose to walk away, bless.
Right. And, but so the guys, that the Mountains men, are just like, yeah, no, nah. One of them straight up is just like, piss on all that. Fuck that. If we wanted dirt, we could get dirt. Dirt's everywhere. Where I lived, they had dirt there. I didn't need to travel all this way for other dirt. Nah. I want the money. I want the gold. And Jaime ends all this just by saying, okay, you know what? You have a fucking problem. You need to go to King's Landing and take it up with my sister. Because that's who adjudicates these types of matters.
Mm-hmm.
And Jaime's like, that's it. He's done. He's done with this whole conversation. And I think, like, it really does end this conversation about compensation. It's just done. And they move on to something else, which is seeing Manderley. Jaime wants to see Willis Manderley. And Raph says, is he the fat one? And Jaime says, I devoutly hope so.
Yeah, basically, like, I hope you guys didn't fucking just kill him.
Right.
You idiots don't know what you're goddamn doing.
God, don't you tell me the fucking story about how he died either.
Which doesn't seem like it would be out of the question, frankly. The way this place is managed.
Honestly, it really could. They would kill him without a second thought, and then afterwards be like, oh shit, that was Sir So-and-so. We probably shouldn't have done that. And then we get reminded too about Pia, who we had met the very first time Jaime was a captive at Harrenhal, and she's still here. This is the girl that they had sent to his bed that night, but she is a completely different person now. She has been brutalized to the point that when she shows up, she falls to Jaime's feet and starts like sobbing hysterically and hanging on to him. And Jaime is just like, okay, first of all, she's not nearly as pretty as she used to be. And her nose has been broken. Half her teeth have been knocked out. And I think we find out later that the mountain did it because he wanted her to be quiet and she was not being quiet. And so he just punches her right in the, like, crushes in her fucking face.
Yep.
And she's
Which always surprises me because I could not be paid to speak anywhere around the mountain.
Right?
I'm so intimidated by him via secondhand stories that if I were in his presence, I would just not open my mouth for anything, even if he asked me a direct question.
Honestly, I cannot understand what was going on that night. Why? Like, I'm 100% in agreement with you. There's no way I would make a peep anywhere near this guy. So the best I could figure is they're all in the room and everybody's drinking and everybody's having a good time, and she's like being flirty and playing with some of the men, and maybe she's not even talking to Clegane. Maybe she's just in a corner with one of the guys and she's like being drunk and laughing, and that's what happened, right? Either way, she's got to be drunk. I just don't see a sober anybody not shutting the fuck up. So
agree.
But
or it could be that he just punched her to punch her and they made up she wouldn't shut up because he just punches people and beats the shit out of them because
and that is also on record. So and then what does he say about the other captains? Captives. They are all in pretty bad shape. A lot of them, Jaime calls them useful hostages, all worth a goodly ransom. But they're in bad shape. Some of them are missing fingers. But he also notices that all their wounds are attended to. They've been washed and bandaged. And no one has gone hungry. So even though they look really bad, they've actually been like getting more care than I would have at least expected at Harrenhal. I was surprised by their state. It doesn't really say one way whether Jaime was or not, but I was definitely surprised. And then it says none had any defiance.
I felt
left.
so bad. Manderly just like crumples and cries even more than Pia did. It
took 4 men to lift him back onto his feet. To which Jaime thinks, too much roast goat.
Yeah.
Jaime. So then Jaime wants dinner, and he makes it very clear to say, you can serve me anything but goat.
I think that's a very reasonable,
Listen, I wouldn't be eating nothing. I would go outside to where my horse was and get my own food out of my own saddlebag and call it a day. I wouldn't want nothing from them kitchens.
That's the main thing for me is just like overall, what has happened in this place? How can you trust that anything that you eat hasn't been in contact with human flesh or God knows what?
Absolutely.
No, thank you.
Yep. Nope. That kitchen is closed.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. So this is when Jaime starts having a conversation with Boniver about plans for Harrenhal after Jaime leaves. And he wants Pia to stay behind. And Boniver is just like, no, you can take the whore with you. She's nothing but corruption. Which is really unfair, y'all.
It's so gross.
This is really gross.
I don't want her here flaunting her parts. And Jaime says, I think her flaunting days are over, which I think he means like because she's been so damaged and she doesn't look as pretty. But really, I'm like, no, her flaunting days are over in that she has been so fucking traumatized. She's not going to want a man anywhere fucking near her ever again. Because I think she was also put in the stocks and just like left to be raped whenever by the time that Arya left. So yeah, it's been a bad scene.
That's what I took it for when he says that her flaunting days are over. I didn't think of it as a dig to her appearance. I really took it as this is not a woman who, presents herself like that anymore. Probably doesn't want to be touched by anybody. But this Boniver guy is just like absolutely not. She's a whore. She's corruption. She's not going to be around to like test my faithful men, which is so telling because if your men were so fucking faithful, then this wouldn't even be an issue, right? But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other podcast. But we all know.
It's also like, I'm really glad for her that she won't have to be around these guys because likely if any of them did assault her, she would not be believed and she would definitely be blamed. So it's probably for the best that she not stay here because who needs it?
Yeah. Jaime ends up
You
saying,
know?
you know what, that's fine. She can ride with me. I'll take her. And he
Yeah.
thinks to himself that, you know what, he could use a washerwoman. This was so unexpected. But he realizes, you know, all of the domestic duties that accompany making trips like this with this number of people. There's like all kinds of day-to-day shit that has to be done. And he has people, squires, to, you know, get his tent up in the morning, to make his food, keep his horse clean, you know, cleaning his armor. But the specific task of caring for his clothes, though, strikes all of these men, these squires, these boys, as being unmanly. Like, I can do all this other shit, but like washing your clothes, though, that's some bitch shit. I can't do that. And it is so wild to me to have that line of demarcation that, like, I can do all of these domestic duties, but washing your clothes, that's too that's too feminine.
That's bitch shit.
Right? Is it gay to wash your clothes, fellas? Like, it's like one of those fucking memes, you know? And I really was like, I was really knocked over by that. I was like, oh, Jesus, wow. But so he's good. So Jaime's going to have Pia travel with them because she can serve this very specific duty, which is, but that's only one woman, and it's only going to be for Jaime's clothes. So no matter how you slice it, these motherfuckers are still out here washing somebody's clothes. Right?
Exactly.
It's just one woman being added to the trip.
And I'm really like, I hope you look after her, Jaime, because if he just leaves her to her own devices, surrounded by these dudes, who the fuck knows? So
yeah,
I want somebody to look out for her, but it's so unlikely to happen because this place is a death trap.
I feel like this moment of Jaime being like, she can travel with me is probably the most of looking out she's going to get.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Like, this is already such a mercy. Like, they could have banished her from the castle, but like not offered her to travel with them. You know, where was she gonna go? She would have been left to her own devices out in the wood. Yet now, this is probably the most mercy she's gonna get. She's gonna garner, which is really fucking sad. That this is the best case scenario, right? It really is. But again, that brings us back to like when you talk about the damage, the collateral damage of the small folk when these wars break out. You know, all the people that get displaced and to get brutalized that aren't really even part of the fucking thing. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so then Bonifer is just really sure that he's...
The whole thing with him is you know how pure his men are, and Jaime's like, just because he has the name The Good, some asshole thought, oh, perfect, we'll send him out to fix everything. But then Jaime's like, I don't know though, maybe that was a good idea. Which I did find really funny, that he's like very sarcastic about it for 1 second, and then it seems like he stops and thinks about what has happened in this castle and is like, well, I know he at least won't do that, so I guess. Which bar's so low. I suppose he won't slowly roast alive an enemy and feed his flesh to the other prisoners. Right. So it's real paragon.
Right, it's a step in the right direction. There's a moment where Jaime is thinking about Littlefinger as well, and he says that Littlefinger talking about Boniver, that he at once quipped that Sir Boniver must have gelded the riders too, because so spotless was their repute. Right, like these guys are so well known for being like devout and unable to be corrupted that they're basically don't have any nuts.
They can't possibly be real men because they aren't raping at random.
Oh my God, Jaime calls him Baylor Butthole.
I forgot about that. Oh my God.
That's so childish.
It is so childish.
But he's just so annoyed by this guy. He really is. He's so fucking... He just finds him so tiresome, you know? So he's going to leave fucking Baylor Butthole to guard Harrenhal, make sure that, you know, they stop with their shenanigans. And him and the rest of the men are going to head towards River Run.
Yeah.
And there's some more conversation about what they should do with the other like brave companions that are out and about, I think is what the conversation is. And this gets Bonifer talking about forgiving them. And that leads to a very interesting conversation. And in summary, Bonifer is like, yeah, if they confess their sins, I will embrace them as brothers and pray with them before I put them on the block. Because sins can be forgiven, but crimes require punishment. And then folds his hands like a steeple because he's so proud of himself. He's so satisfied with this line. He's just like, oh, yeah. Did you hear what I said?
I nailed it.
Did you hear, right? Sins may be forgiven, but crimes.
Write that one down.
Right?
I love too when Jaime is like warning him about Harrenhal being cursed and is like, a lot of people have fallen prey, and he's like, I'm not trying to offend you or anything, but we both know your daddy was a fuckboy who did not care about the seven. I do. They will protect me. They did not protect your father for a good reason.
Right.
But what he actually says, because he's talking about like their shades walk the halls, and he says, I fear no shades, sir. And I was just like, shade. That was what I was thinking about. But anyway.
So I think then the last big thing that really happens is this chapter is I think there's one more night of fighting, and he makes his way back over to the bear pit, which I forgot this place had a fucking bear pit. What a wild thing.
Yeah, this whole thing.
And someone is there. Someone is already looking down into the pit, and it is a knight there named Connington, and we find out that he is Sir Ronnet, Red Ronnet Connington. And this is a guy that we know. This is a guy we have met before and heard about. And he is looking at this pit, and Jaime is like, hey, what you doing? What's up? What's going on? And he says, I wanted to see where the bear danced with the maiden not so fair. And I read that, and I said, here we fucking go. This fucking asshole. I was already mad. I was mad right away, y'all. I was mad right away. And so this is the guy that was betrothed to Brienne when she was still quite young, who gave her the rose and was like, this is literally all you're going to get from me because I got no interest in none of this, right? And then later on in life, he's part of Renly's guard, and when she has the melee and she gets an opportunity to fuck these dudes up and give them a little payback, he's one of those guys as well that she gets to light up. And I think it's really funny that he's got a lot to say to Jaime, but he don't bring that part up at all.
I just think it's funny
punk
how...
ass.
Yup.
But he don't have nothing to say about none of that though. But yeah, so he tells Jaime that is it true that she didn't have any clothes on, that she fought naked? And Jaime is like, what the fuck? No. and also thinking to himself, where the fuck did that come from? And again, I'm like, I love, like, you guys, when word gets out on the street, that word becomes hella unreliable, and I love it. I have always been. That's why I'm so like geeked to hear about like the dragons and stuff. Even as a little kid, I've always been fascinated with how you can start off. Like, remember that game Telephone?
Oh yeah,
that was like one of my favorite games when I was little. It sent me into hysterics. Like the way that one person could say something, and by the time it gets to the end, I would literally be in laughing fits. I've always been fascinated with that. And so so this story about Brienne fighting a bear, who knows what other kind of stories are floating around out there. But back to this guy. He says when Jaime says no, he says they put her in a pink gown and gave her a tourney sword. And then he does an impersonation of Vargo's lisp. The goat wanted her death to be a moothing.
Oh my god, I forgot he says that. A moothing. Oh, Jesus. I hate that. Oh, God.
So, Jaime says,
I'm sorry. Every time I remember his list, it just sends me for a second. The guy was such a maniac, and then he's got this lisp, and I'm just like, what a wild thing to tack on to this character. I'm gonna make him this bloodthirsty horror show and tack on this like.
And then the physical description of him was already wild, right? Mm-hmm. He's got this beard that, like, his severed head still has like that beard that's like 2 feet long. And then let's sprinkle a lisp on that, just a lisp,
Man.
But so then Red Ronnet says, well, I guess the sight of her naked might have made the bear flee in terror. And then laughs because that's really fucking funny.
It's so hilarious for Sean.
It's like, first of all, Jaime doesn't laugh, which I fucking love this moment because he's laughing and Jaime doesn't. And he's like, you speak like you know her. Mm-hmm. And he just drops the ball. I was betrothed to her. And this Jaime is like, wait, what? Because this is not something that she shared with him. And then Connington tells the story that, Brienne's father had tried to match her at least 3 times, that Connington was the second attempt. And that when he heard how ugly she was, he basically said, there's no way I'm marrying her. And his father tells him, all women are the same once you blow the candle out. Mm-hmm. Which is its own level of grossness, but what can you do?
Yeah.
And
close your eyes and think of England, but for the dude.
Right? Oh. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So Jaime's like, oh, your dad. And now he's checking out Red Ronnet's coat, trying to see like what's going on. Oh, dancing griffins. Right.
Yeah, his dad had been like stripped of everything because he was on the wrong side of the war with the Mad King and exiled and drank himself to death somewhere like on the other side of the sea.
Yeah. Jaime says, our late hand's brother, wasn't he? And this guy's like, no, Lord John didn't have any brothers. They were cousins. And then the whole story comes back. And it says here that, was it Red Ronnet's father that got exiled?
I thought so. Let's see. It came back to him. Oh no, you're right. Our late hand's brother, cousin, and then it was his cousin John Connington. Yeah. I think you're right. It wasn't his father. Yeah. It was his father's cousin.
Yeah, so Red Ronnet's father joined the right side, well, Robert's side, and that part of the family is doing just great. Actually, only a little great, because it turns out that they only got a castle, but Robert kept the gold.
Rude,
very rude, but also like on brand.
Yeah,
and so then they are. He tells a story. I met Brienne, she was my height. We had heard this from Brienne's version. He says she was a sow in silk, even though sows have bigger boobs, which is unnecessary. And he says she couldn't even talk to me. She choked on her own tongue. I gave her a rose, told her that's all she was ever going to get from me. And then he looks back over to the pit and is like, I bet the bear was less hairy than that freak. And before he can finish the next sentence, Jaime just fucking pops him right in the goddamn mouth with the fucking gold hand.
Yeah.
And sends him tumbling down into the pit. And says down to him, you are speaking of a highborn lady, sir. You're going to call her by her name. Call her Brienne. Which, y'all, come on. Come on. Come on. Right? Like, how many... Listen. I mean, to have him do that, like, after all the times where he only called her wench, And she had to say, call, right? And
Yep.
now here he is when she is not even around to watch. You know that old thing that this is like a saying that they shove down your throat whenever you do any kind of corporate training for any kind of bullshit job you're going to have. They say integrity is what you do when no one's watching, right? But this is that shit though, because there's nobody else around to witness this. Jaime does not have to do the right thing, be the right guy or anything for any, like he could be a total piece of shit in this moment and there would be nobody around to like call him on it or hold it against him. But this fucking dude starts to talk real slick about our girl. And Jaime is like, no, not today. No, sir, not today. You're not doing that. Not here. Not with me. No, I don't think so. I love it so much. I fucking loved it. I lived. And then this guy does a really shitty thing as he's trying to climb up out of the pit. Also, he's almost kind of on fire, too, because he's got a lantern in his hand that goes over the edge with him. And says to Jaime, Brienne, if it please my lord. And then he spits at Jaime's feet and says, Brienne the beauty, which we know is not said sincerely. And it's just another kind of fuck you. And I wanted him to get punched in the mouth again real quick. Like, I wanted the chapter to end with, like, one more pop, but that is not what happened. But, you know, maybe the next time we get a Jaime POV, I'll get that satisfaction.
Yeah, it's a really satisfying moment. We have this satisfying mouth pop and Sam's satisfying attempt to beat the shit out of the singer.
Yep. Sometimes violence is the answer.
It is. I'm just going to say that. Yeah.
I feel like that was the theme of these two chapters. Sometimes you got to pop somebody in the mouth, y'all. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it really is the only thing sometimes that will teach a person you can't just say whatever the fuck you want to say. And that is, you know, I mean, one of the resounding themes of the internet is that people just can talk real slick and nothing happens to them. And sometimes people take that shit into real life and then they get reminded. Which is why I'm always real careful how I talk. Because you know why? I don't want to get hit in the mouth. So I watch what the fuck I say. And I just feel like enough people don't do that.
I love that. Just, you know, I just would like to not have a man hit me in the face with his gold hand.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Woman with simple taste.
Listen, right? And it's really easy. Like, you know, you can make it, granted, you can't like control people who are going to be violent. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you watch what the fuck you say, then you lessen the odds of somebody feeling like they need to punch you in the mouth. Like you have control over that. Is what I'm saying. You know? Like there are concrete steps you can take.
I feel real like conflicted about this after what happened to Pia though. We're not trying to say that Pia brought it upon herself. You know, there's levels.
Exactly. And again, like I'm not talking about that kind of violence. I'm talking about the sort of thing where you talk slick and think that people are just going to be like, oh, it's fine. You could just say whatever you want to say to me. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to pop them a good one.
I really I want to carry around a gold hand. I'm not even going to hit people with my hand. I'll hit them with my gold hand that I carry in my purse. And it'll be small. It won't be like life-size gold hand like, you know, he's got something to replace. I'll just have a small gold hand the size of baseball maybe.
Where are we going to get this gold hand?
Keep it in my purse. Keep it in my purse.
I bet you could get one on Etsy. It doesn't have to be real gold, right?
Maybe I could get maybe I could get some like brass knuckles that form into a gold hand at the end. So when I punch you, it's like you're being slapped.
Like a Thanos gauntlet.
Kind of. I like it. And the gold hand too, it's got like a mother of pearl nails and stuff, which it's supposed to be fancy, but that sounds so creepy to me.
Oh my God. I forgot about, I'm glad you mentioned that because that part I forgot that they did the pearl for the fingernails. Like, I get you're trying to go for real. Oh, and there's a whole bit he talks about like, I should have just got a hook. And,
yeah, because the way that it's designed is so that it's like the finger and thumb make a little loop so that he can slide it around a wine glass.
He's like, so
He's
at
just
least
like,
I can hold a goblet.
Christ.
And then at
This
one
is what
point, he
I'm
actually,
used to.
at one point, after telling us specifically that the hand is designed as such so that he can hold a goblet, like 2 beats later, he's knocked over his wine glass at the table.
Yep. Didn't seem to help. Sorry for it.
But
Life
yeah,
comes at you fast, Jamie.
it really does. But I enjoyed these chapters. I liked that. Obviously, the Sam chapter was it was just a stone cold bummer.
That's true.
But it had it was difficult to read, but there were some moments that I really really loved. I loved this stuff with Master Aemon, and of course the him bumping into Arya, and neither of them having any idea who the other was and how much they share. Right, those kind of moments in the story will always get me when you have 2 characters meet each other in passing, and the reader is just like, I wish you would just one of you say the right thing to open the floodgates. My God, one of you say something, and then like if nothing happens, like, and then you just like want to throw the book across the room. I like those. I like those moments too. So that was a really good moment for me there in the Sam chapter, and then the Jaime chapter with fucking at the end. Like, come on, it's so everything
good.
You want.
So good.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how we're getting like chapters back to back that each tie together in a very obvious way.
Yeah. And I am really enjoying these books more and more and more. The further we move from anything that I know, like the more I'm enjoying them.
Yeah.
So definitely. Yeah, I'm having fun. Yeah. I hope you guys are too.
Yay.
I know I'm all over the place a lot of times when we're recording and everything, but I am really enjoying them, and I hope you guys are enjoying them too.
All right. Well, I don't have any new patrons to greet this week because life is sad and unfair and bleak and rainy. Boo. So if you'd like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled, and you can also follow me there for free. And if you can't afford to pay for anything, you can just share info about the show with people that you think would be interested and tag us and stuff, and just let people know about us. That's very material benefit for me. So that's like one of the big things, is just getting your name in front of people's faces. So do that if you can. And appreciate everybody bearing with us with our pet problems. I, for one, last night, Rashawn and I recorded Ted Lasso, and Pippin was loud AF during that recording. So today it was Rashawn's turn. But it's, you guys know, this is life.
She's like napping, and as soon as we're done recording, I'm about to go ruin the fuck out of that nap over there.
Get back at her.
Yep, I'm about to jack that whole nap up. So,
all right. Well, thank you guys again for listening. We love you very much. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.